DuckTalks is part of Res TV's network of podcasts. Check out res.tv for other great podcasts.
Hi, I'm TV's Glomgold. You may remember me as Earth's greatest hero. You're probably thinking, that handsome Lionheart couldn't possibly give the people of Duckburg any more. Wrong again! From the visionary mind that brought you the Glom Coaster, behold, the Flintferris Glomwheel! Unveiling tonight at Duckburg Pier.
It's the week of Tuesday, September 29th, and you're listening to episode 112 of DuckTalks. Hello, Duck fans. Welcome to another episode of DuckTalks, and man, just glad you're here, glad to be here, and glad to have another new episode of DuckTales to talk about. If you've never checked out our podcast, this is DuckTalks. We are a DuckTales and Disney Afternooniverse fan podcast. We like to talk about the new DuckTales show that is currently airing on Disney XD, Season 3. We're in the midst of that, about 8 episodes in. We also like to talk about merchandise and news, hopefully news about, a live-action Rescue Rangers movie in the future. Love to have an opportunity to talk about that when there's some news. But yeah, we'd like to talk about all the things around the Disney afternoon and DuckTales. If you're not new to the show and you're back, we want to thank you for coming back once again, checking us out, and subscribing, clicking on bells, whatever it is, however you listen to this podcast, this chaos of a conversation, this barrel monkeys, or is it monkey barrels of a good time. We're glad you're here. My name's Mitch. I'm one of your hosts. Joining me this week, I have my pals, Pirate Steven and Josh.
Ahoy there.
Hey, guys.
And, well, Josh didn't ask what's going on, or how's it happening.
All right, I'll do it over.
Threw me off. For so many months, you've
Hey,
thrown
guys.
me off by asking it.
Hey, guys, what's happening? What's going on?
You don't even know what you ask anymore.
I don't even know. I'm just doing it.
Man, we've had back-to-back episodes of DuckTales. What is going on with the world?
The only good thing going on in the world, that's what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of craziness out there. We're going to have some fun talking about this show. Not only do you have us on this podcast episode, we have a guest with us. And we're always excited to have community members on the podcast so that we could talk about their fandom. But we're excited to have Kolbi with us. Now, Kolbi is commonly known over on Twitter as Pixie Sphere, and that's where we're most active, is over on Twitter. So you should check us out there as well as DuckTalks. But Kolbi, welcome to DuckTalks.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Awesome. You've been part of the community for a while now. I think you've been... I remember having conversations with you pretty early on with the show. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about your DuckTales fandom, maybe how you came to find out about the show, anything about the Disney afternoon?
Yeah, sure thing. So before I got into DuckTales, Wander Over Yonder was my favorite cartoon because I like to follow my favorite voice actors and writers and such. And Glomgold, of course, is my favorite character. And what drew me to him initially was the fact that he was voiced by Keith Ferguson, the same voice as Lord Hater and a bunch of others. So it was that character initially that brought me into it. And I absolutely fell in love with the DuckTales reboot. And beforehand, I wasn't super familiar with the Disney Afternoon universe. But after getting into it, I watched all of DuckTales 1987, a bunch of Darkwing, a bunch of Rescue Rangers as well. So I haven't seen everything, but I'm like catching up to speed, and I really love it, and I owe a lot of that to DuckTales for like getting me into all that.
Well, that's cool. Now, have you watched those mostly on Disney Plus, or did you pick up DVDs? Or
Yep. So my older brother picked up a bunch of Darkwing Duck DVDs for me, and I did watch the DuckTales 1987 on a website I don't remember. But I have rewatched quite a few of those episodes on Disney Plus now.
Oh, awesome. Disney Plus has been great for that. I'd been picking up the DVDs for a while, but stopped looking for them once I found out Disney Plus was coming. I still might look for them at some point. I would imagine the prices have come down even more now that people don't need the discs. But that's really cool. So Wander Over Yonder. I know about this show, but I honestly think I've only ever seen the pilot. But I know Frank Angones, the co-producer on DuckTales, also worked on that show. So it's one I'm looking forward to seeing when, and I'm sure it's when and not if, but when it shows up on Disney Plus.
Yeah, and I really can't recommend it enough. It's probably my second favorite cartoon of all time after DuckTales 2017. And again, Keith Ferguson's work as Lord Hater is amazing. And there's a bunch of like little references to Wander Over Yonder in DuckTales that I really appreciate.
Now, we're Keith Ferguson friends, but mainly because of Overwatch.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Reaper, right?
Yeah, Reaper. That's Pirate's main, or it used to be. I'm not putting in a lot of Overwatch hours anymore, but at one point after Disney Infinity ended, we were playing it pretty regularly with a large group of people who were playing, and that "Where's the refrigerator?" is one of my favorite lines from that game. But we've loved Glomgold.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you're the number one Glomgold fan. We thought we were for a while, but after seeing you have your own Glomgold plush, and I mean your whole account is dedicated to the Chester loving Glomgold, and it's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I love his character so much. Again, DuckTales means a lot to me. I met all of my best friends through it. It got me into a bunch of other things, and it has helped me a lot. And because Glomgold was what drew me to the show, he just has a very special place in my heart.
You've even got a Glomgold meme that is now part of the show.
Yes, the Rise image. It's in the very first episode. Glomgold has his arms up in the air, and I just thought it was a really funny frame, so I made it transparent. It's like an emoji on Discord that we use, and I edited some flames behind it. It was really cool to see that in the show.
Yeah, that will probably be the background image for this podcast episode. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, that's going to be it. If we're going to have Kolbi on, we're going to have that image.
It's perfect.
So you also watched Darkwing Duck, and so are you looking forward to the Let's Get Dangerous episode that's coming up?
I am so incredibly excited for this episode. It's one of the ones I'm most excited for because Goslin is a very important character to me and my friends, and I just love Drake and Launchpad, and I'm very curious to see how they're going to put like a modern spin on their family dynamic. It's going to be really great.
Yeah, that's a character that for us, I mean, back in 92, we were kids, and so we were watching this show, and Goslin was, our introduction into everything. Even though she wasn't, there at the very beginning of Darkwing's, superheroing career, it's that story, that of how she comes to know him that kind of pulls you in, and then she's the video games and comic books and running around getting in trouble and playing hockey and all of that kind of pulls you in into the show. And then as we've gotten older and we're looking back on it, it's she really was an important character to us. So I can't wait to see her on the show and to see what they do with everything. We've only got a couple of weeks now, I believe. Pirate, what's the countdown to?
20
days. You started that in the 60s. and I noticed was the gift today was current, wasn't it? Wasn't it from the recent promo?
Yeah, that recent promo dropped last night. It was ridiculous, and when I saw Bushroot, I had to make that the gift for 20 days left. I was so shocked to see him. It was amazing.
Yeah, well, spoilers.
Forgot about
Spoilers. We're going to talk about the promo.
If you're watching or listening to our podcast, you know about Bushroot.
That's right. Yeah. Spoilers are mandated for the podcast. We're going to talk about the promo. That's what we're going to jump into because there's no other news for us to jump into this week. So, well, that's not true. First thing, we had we're gonna go to the promo after this. The promo was before this. Today, I believe it was today. It's been crazy. We haven't talked about that much. Man, it's been a crazy week. We're trying to finish out the month at work, and I literally got off work, fixed dinner, got everybody in bed, and sat down to set this up. So it's been a crazy week. I feel like I don't know what day it is, and I'm pretty sure it's not Wednesday. But today we had the intro to next week's episode released a little bit early, and it's a spooky theme on the DuckTales title.
Life is like a hurricane here in Duckburg. Race cars, lasers, aeroplanes. It's a duck blur. Might solve a mystery or rewrite history. DuckTales. Every day they're out there making DuckTales. Tales of daring, do bad, and good luck tales. DuckTales.
So that's going to be a lot of fun. It reminds me of the last Christmas, the holiday special. Wasn't really a holiday special, but we call it that. Last Christmas, the episode had a themed opening, and that was released early, I believe, as well. So it's really cool that they're doing that for Halloween. And we all know Pirate loves Halloween, so what have you been thinking about this?
Yeah, I mean, they're promoting the heck out of this one, and it just feels like this will be just like the last Christmas episode was for DuckTales. I feel like this will be a Halloween episode that will live way past DuckTales and beyond. People will be picking this on Disney Plus to watch this as a Halloween episode for their family and friends. I feel like this is going to be a classic. We got classic trick or treat potential here.
Ooh, okay. I like that they did the opening. I like that they're doing all this promoting. Disney Channel, Disney Junior, and Disney XD are all three pushing Halloween stuff, and they do that every year, which is always exciting. And I guess we can go ahead and count. Is Freeform still around? I don't have cable anymore. That's ABC's other channel that does a lot of Halloween stuff. But Disney XD is making sure they get this episode out there early so they can air it as many times as possible. And I think you're right. I think it has the potential to be something great. Looks spooky for sure. And we also, I don't think we were able to get to a blog on this, but there were a lot of big horror movie names connected with this episode that are going to be voicing characters. Did you guys see that? I know we haven't talked about it. It's been crazy.
Yeah, it seems like each one of the monsters in this episode is going to be a celebrity doing a voice. So I think this is going to be a fun one, and with a lot of known people working it. I know Selma Blair is the monster that looks like the girl from The Ring.
Oh, okay.
And then there's an It clown, and also the puppet from the Saw franchise, and then another monster that looks like Frankenstein.
So I see we've got Clancy Brown, we've got Doug Jones, and we got James Marsters. He was from Buffy, right? I think that's who that is. So all of those are going to be monsters in this episode, taking on the kids as they end up trick-or-treating. They decide to go to the haunted house and end up in some shenanigans. We've received some promos for this episode as well. We've gotten some glimpses. Can't say glimpses for some reason. We've got some glimpses at it, as well as other episodes in this big October DuckTales promo that was released. Now, they've not been putting these online as often as we've seen in the past. I haven't seen them on the YouTube channel. I haven't looked today, but these promos that have been releasing in the past, we've seen them show up on YouTube later. But with this, thankfully, our buddy Jason was able to get us a high-quality version of the video. We've got it over at DuckTalks.com, which is our blog, which is really just show notes. For those of you who haven't been following the blog for long, that's or the podcast, that's what it is. It's our show notes. We just share them ahead of time with everybody. But yeah, so Jason got us a pretty high quality video of this promo. We're going to break it down a little bit and talk about it. There's a lot of stuff in it that we've seen before, but there was some things of note that we wanted to point out. One of the things that, and I know if you guys are looking at the images that I sent out, the first one is of a raven in front of the kids, and there's not really anything of note there other than it kind of made me gasp and go, could it be Potospell? Is it possible we're going to see Potospell? I don't think we're going to see Potospell, but it's a raven, so I had to bring it up. It's not Poe.
He started off saying, "Oh, it's definitely gonna be Poe." Oh, it's not. It's not him.
It's not. That's a no news item. But it was the first thing I thought of when I noticed. I was like, "Oh, it's a raven," and I was like, "Could Poe be in this one?" No, he's not. There's too much going on. They're not going to introduce Potospell in this episode. I still think it's coming, but it's not going to be in this episode. The first thing of note that I did take a screenshot of that we have seen in a previous promo, but I don't think we had a chance to talk about it, is this whole skeleton get up Scrooge McDuck. And it's really interesting looking because it looks like he's got a painted skeleton face and a jumpsuit, and then his hat is cobwebs, and it's a look that I'm digging for Scrooge.
It seems like they're almost like setting up a haunted house for the kids, and they're all kind of dressing up to scare them. And so this could be like Scrooge dressing up as a skeleton to scare them.
So Josh says Scrooge has hired all these people, all these horror movie actors to be in this haunted house just to teach his nephews a lesson, and Webby, the kids a lesson.
It might start off that way.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I mean, you do have Launchpad with it. Does he have a chainsaw? What's in his hand? You do have, yeah. I think it's not a chainsaw, is it?
I think it's like a skill saw.
Yeah,
or something like that.
The image that I have, Jason, the image that I have is not of great enough quality that I can zoom in and see it. You give me such a hard time, man. I've got to point it out. Not that he listens to us anymore. He's got his own podcast about Ninja Turtles. But yeah, that's the next image that I have is Launchpad holding up that I don't think it's a skill saw, but it's something similar.
Or is it?
But and these kids are not our kids. It's different kids.
Well, see that maybe they're doing. Oh, you're right. It is different kids. So maybe they are doing like a haunted house, and then it's just like Halloween time, and people are coming by, and they're just scaring people.
I'm very curious to see how Launchpad is going to react to all this Halloween stuff, because in season 1, the mole monster thing, when he thought Dewey was a mole monster and he was freaking out over the whole episode, I definitely think he's not going to react too well to like all these people walking around in costumes. And I also wouldn't put it past Scrooge to try and scare kids away so he doesn't have to give out free candy. That's definitely a possibility.
Oh, I like that. So maybe the Scrooge story is separate from the boys. Maybe that's just him at the mansion keeping kids away from the house.
That reminds me of Grunkle Stan from Gravity Falls.
Yes.
Yeah.
From the Summerween episode.
You know, that could be it. Launchpad and Scrooge might be doing that together. I can't tell what's in the background behind Launchpad. But, you know what? I'm a moon, yeah. Yes. But I'm also seeing a possible, and I may get this name wrong because I've only seen the episode once, Timmy Jenkins in this image. I can't make out whether or not he's got glasses on because of the all-new episodes all month long. But there is a pig with an apple on his head.
It's Dewey's Revenge.
The return of Dewey's arch nemesis. Not the real arch nemesis that actually wants to kill him, but the one he thinks he has. That one. And then the next shot I have is Bushroot. Which, I mean, come on. That was just a showstopper. I did not have time to look at this image, and I had to stop and look at this image. just looking at the image, I mean, there are roots everywhere, but our buddy Bushroot is not looking good. And at first, I thought he was like wrapped up in his roots and stationary. But once I zoomed in on the image, you can see his legs, which are really cool, by the way. You can see his legs and that he's standing there. So this is like some kind of pose. He's active. I thought when it first flashed on my screen that he was like almost dead and living, underneath, barely getting enough light to survive or something, like stationary. But it doesn't seem to be the case. And of course, later in the promo, we see these roots come back, and we know they're moving and doing stuff. At first, we thought this might be part of the trickening, but then we realized this promo was going to include all October episodes. So I do think this is going to be possibly be in Let's Get Dangerous. Maybe the opening of Let's Get Dangerous. I have been hoping we would see a Darkwing montage. I mean, come on. The last 2 episodes of DuckTales, we've had montages. We have to have a montage in Let's Get Dangerous. I don't know how they're going to work it out in the trickening, but they have to do it for Let's Get Dangerous, where we see Darkwing taking on various villains and stuff. I think this will be more than that, obviously, because of other scenes we've seen. But I think there's a lot here. I think there's a lot going on that we don't know.
I think it's very curious in the second screen cap that you mentioned with like the kids running away from the roots, that Bradford is following them. And I can't help but wonder if Bushroot maybe was like a failed foul experiment, mostly because like if you think about it, a bunch of the foul members have experimentations done on them, from like Steelbeak's beak to Black Heron's arm and Gandra's eyes. So I'm curious to see the connections there.
Yeah, and the description for Let's Get Dangerous points out that Darkwing comes across someone who works for Scrooge, or there's a mystery around someone. The mystery was about about Isabella Finch's mysteries, but there was something about an employee. So I think this is going to be all connected with Bradford for sure. I still think Taurus Bulba is the employee in that description, and maybe Bushroot's one of his experiments. I think the color is odd. I think it was Amores Patos that said reminded of the zombie Bushroot. That'd be something interesting to see.
It also might be just that it being dark in there, because we have seen different color palettes for different, like for even with Darkwing Duck. Sometimes his costume is darker when he's in a darker area versus when he's out in the light. His colors are more vibrant, and so it's possible that it's just that, or I mean, maybe they just muted his colors for another reason. So I guess we'll find out soon.
You're right. It could always be more like a villainous flashback of how he came to be, and so we're just seeing it in a muted color. So that's fair. That's very fair. And we don't see that those roots are the same color when we see them chasing after the kids. There's more of a green tint there, I feel. Maybe. Then moving past the bushroot scenes, we do have a monster, and not sure which of the monsters this is as far as who might be voicing them, whether they even have a voice. It made me think of Tremors. But at first I was trying to figure out when I was watching the promo, what episode could this be from? Is it Trickening? But then we do see it later with other monsters, so we know it is Trickening. Then you got Scrooge scaring our kids in a scene. So we've got him jumping out, and it does. I'm thinking you're right on. This is Scrooge trying to keep kids from getting toward the candy. Also with the Trickening, we see Donald and Della with Launchpad just kind of checking things out, and Launchpad's very determined to do a good job at this. And then we get the scene with those monsters. We get a blob-like monster as well with a skull, with a duck skull. And that's it until we get to Darkwing Duck, who shows up. And that was really what kind of indicated for me for the first time this might be all of October's episodes. And the screenshot that I took, there's kind of a clever, I don't really know, transition in the promo. And I don't know that it'll actually be in the episode or if it's something they did for this promo alone, but you get that Negatron for just a brief moment of Darkwing Duck. I don't know if you guys noted that, but that stuck out to me.
I see what you're saying, but I didn't pick up on that until you said that.
Yeah, I don't think that's the intention. I mean, it'd be kind of cool if it was, but that pop, of course, it glows in the dark, and that pop is displayed across from my bed. So every night when I go to sleep, it's staring at me. It just kind of stood out to me. But we get a really cool shot of Darkwing there with the hat tip, and then Webby's head falls off. I mean, I don't know where this episode's coming from, or what's going on. Anybody have any guess whatsoever? It's an October episode. Could be Impossible.
Oh, that's true. I was thinking that it might be part of the Halloween one, and then with like Webby trying to scare somebody and have like a fake version of herself. But that's my only guess.
Yeah. That's definitely the theme of this promo, so it fit it right in.
Out of everything in the promo, that threw me off the most, I think.
It threw Huey off, too. Those eyes. I love when they do the small pupils.
It's so good.
And then I think one of the most interesting shots in the promo for me was seeing that Gizmo Duck would be in Let's Get Dangerous, because you have him fighting the roots. It looks like it's possible he's underwater just from the background. I'm thinking this could be underneath underneath Gyro's lab, or around Gyro's lab, which we know is in the basement, the underground portion of the money bin. Which means maybe that's where Bushroot is?
It's possible. The one thing that stuck out with this picture for me was how Gizmo Duck was going to be in the episode that's actually a Darkwing Duck episode, and I think Darkwing Duck would totally hate that he's showing up and stealing his glory.
Yeah, we'll get a confrontation for sure. And I think Frank has said this over on Tumblr. Vaguely, I remember him saying that Gizmo Duck would be in this episode. I could be wrong, but I feel like as soon as I saw it and I was surprised, I was like, oh yeah, he said that. I might be wrong, but I think so. All right. Anything else stand out?
I know one of my favorite classic DuckTales episode is the Ducky Horror Picture Show. Do y'all remember that one?
Yep.
I don't remember that episode.
That is where all the classic monsters were having like a meeting at a convention center in Duckburg, and I think Scrooge like closes that building down, and so they all these classic monsters are coming after Scrooge. And he ends up giving them a job doing like a stage show of being monsters, because they realize that kids love monsters and they love that attention. So I think it'd be really fun to have that. If they were having anything hidden tributes to past DuckTales episodes, I feel like that'd be a good one to throw in there.
Agreed.
If I remember correctly, in that episode, there's like a green blobby monster. So I'm curious to see if the green blobby monster that we're going to be seeing in the Trickening is a reference to that one.
Very good catch.
I'm going to have to watch that episode. What was the title again?
The Ducky Horror Picture Show.
All right. I've noted it.
Like find a picture and compare.
Oh, yeah. No, I do remember this. Yep.
I don't remember. Did they have any other DuckTales Halloween episodes for classic?
Do you think Hot Spells? Oh, that's Darkwing. Darkwing. Sorry.
Yeah, that won't see the light of day. Not on Disney Plus.
The Blob is different in this one.
Yeah, it's kind of brown.
Yeah, but still could be a tribute.
But it definitely could be a tribute. That's cool. I'll have to check that episode out. Everyone should check that episode out. It has Pirates approval on it.
There you go.
But is it better than Double O Duck?
No.
That's the promo. It's out there. Do you guys think we'll get many more promos? I know Jason and I have gone back and forth a little bit about whether or not how many promos we might see. I feel like Disney XD is giving us a lot of promos recently.
It feels like we got a new one every day today. I mean, this week.
That's what I was saying. I feel like I've made blogs like 2 or 3 times a week on promos. And I still feel like I missed one.
I have one more prediction that may or not be true, but the Frankenstein-looking character from this episode is wearing like the Lena shirt, and I wonder if that has anything to do with the band. Maybe that's like the lead singer becomes a monster. That's just a weird thing to have.
What was that band's name? The Featherweights.
The Featherweights.
That's what I was going with, and I was like, that can't be right. The Featherweights. Yeah, I was thinking it was like a Freddy Krueger like sweatshirt, whichever. But it does look a lot like Lena, and that's where she got hers. All right, well, I think that's going to do it for that promo. There's a lot of great shots in there. There's a lot to look forward to in October. It's crazy to think that we have a whole month worth of episodes. We've actually got more than that because Let's Get Dangerous is supersized 44-minute episode. But before that, before we go even further into October episodes, which we'll do on a future podcast, let's take a look at the latest episode of DuckTales. Now, this episode aired just yesterday. That was Monday, the 28th of September. And the title is They Put a Moonlander on the Earth. Wanted to make sure I covered that. You know, trying to get back in the groove of actually reviewing episodes. Want to make sure we included the title up front this time instead of throwing it in sometime later in the review.
I think it's really cool that the title for this episode is actually a reference to the working title that they had for Whatever Happened to Della Duck, because Frank had said, I believe it's on Twitter, that the original title for that was They Put a Duck on the Moon. So I just think that's a really neat little touch.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that. I love when the titles come back and there's a little nod to them here or there. But because this is one of those titles that every time I try to say it from memory, I want to say On the Moon. And I have to think about it. But it's a fun play on what they had previously had planned on doing. All right, so for our reviews, we like to do a 30-second recap followed by talking about who worked on the episode, and then we'll just kind of talk about our favorite parts and things that stood out. So I've got the randomizer set up. I'm going to be number 1. Josh is number 2. Pirates 3. And so Kolbi, you'll be number 4.
Alrighty.
Oh, boy.
It's going to be 1.
It's not a 1. It's not a 1. It is a 2.
Oh, no. Penumbra didn't know how to fit into the Earth, so they decided to take her to see the Glomgold Glomwheel. She was not fitting in on doing any of the games, roller skating. They decided to go on the Ferris wheel. Things break down. She saves the day. Launchpad tries to say sorry, and he's really awkward around her. And then they make up, and that's it. I don't know.
Okay, 24 seconds. 24 seconds. I think pretty good. You got the majority of the story, I think. So,
yeah.
So we'll call that probably one of the quickest ones we've ever had.
I know. I skipped a lot of stuff, though.
You did, but we'll cover it now. Now, this episode was written by Sam King and Bob Snow. I know Sam's been on Twitter talking about the experience. I haven't got to look at all of that, but I got to see some of it yesterday, I think. I'm always trying to walk that line of spoilers and trying to stay in the loop. And hasn't worked for me this week. Storyboards were by Sam King, Kat Marusik, Rachel Peck, and Stefan Park. The episode was directed by Jason Zurich and Sam King. So Sam was involved pretty much in every aspect. I think I saw something today about the song at the end that she didn't hear it until the very end. So I think that's the one thing she didn't know about before this episode aired. It was a great episode. It was followed behind the Phantom and the Sorceress, which was last week's episode. And, of course, next week is going to be The Trickening. I like that we got... I tell you, I was really excited about this episode having Della back. I was kind of let down that Della wasn't in it any more than she was. But I will say that for the story and everything that took place, it makes total sense and all is forgiven. But I was disappointed. I had sold it to my girls as this is going to be a Della episode. Della's going to be back, but surprise, it was a Penny episode, and that was okay because they enjoyed it anyway. And a lot of Webby. I feel like it's been a while since we've had a Webby focused episode where we got a lot more Webby, and we got a lot of insight into Webby too. Later in the toward the end of the episode, when she's talking with Penumbra and kind of talking her through giving new things a chance, and she's talking about her life growing up and how she has Mansion Webby and World Explorer Webby, and I really like that whole thing. And it's great because she's sitting there at Hamburger Hippo, and Penny's getting a hamburger for the first time. And there's that whole, if you remember back, I know everybody who watches DuckTales remembers this, but when you go back to Day Trip of Doom, wasn't it Day Trip of Doom? No, it's Woo. Back to Woo, she says she's going to eat a hamburger, meaning she's going to go after Scrooge, and she's like, you realize it was a metaphor, right? That whole thing. So it's kind of tying all that in. I thought that was great. Love that callback.
It kind of picks up what happened to all the Moonlanders as well. We kind of haven't heard much about them in the last few episodes, and we kind of come to find out that they're exploring Earth and they're learning about the culture and enjoying it. And I think the funniest part is that they all are like dressed in like 90s outfits. And
their interpretation of the 90s for sure.
Yeah. And they have like the slap bracelets and then they had like slinkies and then their outfits were those like bright colors and stuff like that. But that was a pretty interesting. I don't know how that got started. Did it say?
Della. I think it's Della because Della is, remember in season 2, Della's very 90s in the way she talks and stuff because she left Earth in the 90s. So I think that's it. I think because they look up to her, maybe that's the drive for that.
I definitely think that as well, because back when she was on the moon, she was like showing the Moonlanders all these slapping bracelets and stuff, and that was like their first idea of what the world or the Earth was like. So it's really cool that they're kind of throwing back to that. Like Gibbous and Zenith's dog was just like covered in slap bracelets, and those were the two things that they were the most excited for.
Was that what was near the dog's paws? Did the dog have slap bracelets on its legs? I didn't get a chance to go back and look, but now that you said that, I thought it had sneakers on it at one point.
Oh.
It was the dog's name. Did he say good? Didn't he just say Good Boy?
Yeah, it was Good Boy.
Yep, her name is Good Boy. Yeah.
Oh, those Moonlanders.
That's supposed to be a classic dog name that Earthlanders use.
I think my favorite line in this episode was when Penny and Launchpad went out for coffee, and he's so nervous around her, he can't think of anything to say. And his opening line is, hey, so do you get Darkwing on the moon?
Yeah.
I love that.
It's his default. It's his default.
You know, Penny, you don't have to leave. You haven't even experienced any of Earth yet.
Not true. I went out for Earth coffee.
Out? Like a date? With who?
So... do you get Darkwing Duck on the moon, or...
This is terrible.
I always think back to Last Crash, when he's checking on Dewey, and he's like, "Should I pause the Darkwing video?" It's like that's his default. He goes back to it every time, just like us. I mean, this episode, we were super excited. We've been talking about the fact that we had the Flintferris Glomwheel, which I think was one of the first things about this episode that came out. One of the first things that we found out about. And so we knew Glomgold was going to be in this one. Of course, that's when we were talking about that with Kolbi, and we were like, why don't you come on the podcast? We'll talk about some Glomgold. And of course, we got some classic Glomgold shenanigans. No sharks with parkas, no bombs, but we did get a cannon. What'd you think, Kolbi, about this scheme of Glomgold's?
I loved it to bits. Everything about it, from the ridiculous name, the Flintferris Glomwheel, to how he was working with Gibbous and using air quotes, and just like how everything about it was fantastic. I think it's really cool that Glomgold kind of came along with the Moonlanders in this episode, because we haven't really seen much of him since Moonvasion either. So I feel like it was a really good idea for them to bring them all together, and I can't wait to see more of him. I think it's also very interesting how forgiving Glomgold is of Gibbous, because Glomgold is like angry, and he's the king of holding grudges, and he like has this giant cannonball fall on his foot and all these bills he has to pay, and he's like, oh, I can't stay mad at you. I thought that was really cute.
My face!
No! Curse you, me, Ferris, me, wheel!
Safety violation fines, bills for damage to the pier, and a thank you letter from Timmy Jenkins.
Don't you worry, sir. Your next giant wheel cannon will surely be a success.
Oh, sweet Gibbous. How can he stay mad at you?
I like when he introduced himself as TV's Glomgold.
And he keeps pushing that he saved the Earth.
Hey, I'm TV's Glomgold. You may remember me as Earth's greatest hero. You're probably thinking, that handsome Lionheart couldn't possibly give the people of Duckburg any more. Wrong again! From the visionary mind that brought you the Glom Coaster, behold, the Flintferris Glomwheel! Unveiling tonight at Duckburg Pier.
He did, but he also single-handedly. He also pushes that what does he say? Does he say vanquish the Moonlanders, or he points out the fact that he stopped them, and yet, like you said, he's got Gibbous with him. I thought that was funny, and of course their interactions make for some funny comedy as well, because Glomgold's he's just not grasping it. He keeps calling him a Martian. Which Gibbous finally gives into. Gibbous has got an easy, kind of laid back, let it go kind of attitude, which is a lot of fun. And that's our old pal Paulson there doing that voice. It was great hearing him on DuckTales again. But yeah, there's a lot of fun there. I loved the whole thing about I don't even remember how it came up, but where Glomgold says something about call. He's like giving him a hard time about calling the health or the safety inspector, and that's when he does the air quotes, which give us what was it? He translates it into something bunny fingers.
Yeah, a happy Earth bunny fingers, something like that.
Yeah. And so Gibbous calls the safety inspector and brings them in and sets off, everything going wrong for Glomgold. Now, when we had seen promos for this episode, we had noted that the Flintferris Glomwheel had seen better days, and we had wondered if it would get trashed in this episode. It does, but it looked like that in the beginning. I think that was quite a surprise that the savior of Earth just kind of let this construction take place haphazardly and put people in danger. Who would have ever thought Glomgold would do that?
Well, that's the follow-up for the Glom Coaster.
I thought that was great too.
Which had sharks on it.
Yeah, that one did have sharks.
Oh, you know what? This episode did have sharks. I take it back. I take it back. I forgot about that. I love that Dewey went and rode this coaster, or at least attempted to, the first day, and that's where he met his arch nemesis. Timmy Jenkins. That's right. Isn't it Timmy Jenkins?
Yep.
Yeah. Who does...
He's just mad because Timmy went on the ride before him, and that's when it got stuck for hours, and he got to be on TV, and that's like Dewey's dream. So,
and that whole thing was convincing.
That's a really funny story.
I remember when the Glom coaster opened. I waited all morning, but I let a kid, Timmy Jenkins, go ahead of me. The track broke and he was stuck for hours. It was national news on every channel. And as I watched him tell his horrifying story on a dozen different talk shows, I thought, that should have been me up there! Well, not today, Timmy Jenkins. Today is Dewey's Disaster Day.
Woohoo! What could go wrong?
Hopefully everything.
And he even let him on ahead of him. So, like, he would have been the one.
Which seems very out of character, and I would imagine was a pivotal moment in this child's life and changed his direction forever. Because I don't think he would do that ever again.
I also think it's really funny. If I'm remembering correctly, Timmy Jenkins is also voiced by Ben Schwartz.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I believe so. If I'm remembering correctly, I can double check on that. But I think that's there's just something really funny to me about it.
Yeah, you know what? That last line that he has, I think that's right. Not long ago, over on Tumblr, Frank mentioned that Webby was going to get a new role model this season, and so I'm thinking that's going to be Penny. I think a lot of people were talking about that anyway, but even though she kind of helped her out, she really was kind of looking up to her at the beginning of the episode anyway, and excited to be able to follow around this warrior of the moon, which was really cool. And then, seeing Penumbra having to struggle with life on Earth, and the fact that she was no longer this great warrior, and she kind of looked down on all the Moonlanders kept saying, you don't like fun Earth things. So she kind of looked down on having fun and was solely focused on getting back to the moon, which I found surprising. I didn't see them taking that, taking her storyline there, but it was a nice transition that made for a great episode.
I think it's really cool that Penumbra and Webby are the ones who are bonding for Webby's mentor, because they do have quite a lot in common. Like, the world was new to Webby at one point because she was only in the mansion, and watching Day Trip of Doom, especially seeing how she's unfamiliar with everything. So is Penumbra. They just had very different ways of looking at this new world, where Webby was excited and happy to see everything, and Penumbra was more hesitant. So I feel like Webby is able to understand Penumbra's position while still being able to offer her a more positive perspective on these new things.
Absolutely true. I like it. I'm looking forward to... Do you think we'll get more Penumbra before the finale? Or do you think this was like... Because I know a lot of times when you have such a big cast and so many characters to cover and so many different things to do, I sometimes worry that some of these great characters will get... I think she'll be back in the end. But do you think?
Yeah, I think Sam said that this was her big episode.
Okay,
but I can't see her not having something to do with Stop and Foul in the end. I feel like she'll be a part of that.
I don't know if you guys caught this either, but there was, like, at the very end, a little blip where you see Lunaris' ship kind of go by in the atmosphere. It was like right at the end.
When you show the moon, you could see the shadow of Lunaris' ship.
Exactly. Makes me think that he's going to come back with a vengeance, and we'll have Penumbra there waiting.
That'd be interesting. I didn't see that coming, and I missed that in my single viewing. Is it after, like, is there just a shot of the sky and you see the moon and see the ship go by, or is it just like in the background while something else is happening?
I think it's in the sky after the ball hits Glomgold. It kind of shows the moon, but I'm just double checking. But
yeah, and
I think there is a shot of the sky at some point.
Yeah,
that would make sense. I just don't remember how it ended.
I thought that scene was really cool, and I liked they had another scene where at the very end where Penny was doing that crazy jump and like the moon is in the background of her. I thought that was a really cool shot.
We did see a lot of the moon in this episode, and which, is what has been Penumbra's motivation and kind of the thing she wouldn't let go all along. So it would be something that would be important to the episode. I like that they do things like that to kind of bring home those points. And one thing that was also hilarious, and I know when we were watching the earlier promos for this episode, we were talking about how the limousine was driving itself. And I think Josh hit on this a little bit, in that the episode begins with Penny talking about how she went for Earth Coffee. And so there's this whole thing where we get a flashback to a date with Launchpad, and she's just like, this isn't any good, and just walks off and leaves. And I thought it was really great that when he's in the car with Dewey and he's talking with Dewey about it, he's like, that went really bad. That's not going to work. And now I don't know how to act around her. Does that make us arch villains now? And I think Dewey's the last person he should probably ask that, because Dewey thinks Timmy Jenkins is his arch villain, his arch nemesis.
Dewey, can I ask you a best friend question?
Sure.
Penumbra and I got coffee and it was so bad. She and I should never date. But now I don't know how I'm supposed to act around her. Do I ignore her? Is that mean? Am I supposed to be mean? Dewey, am I her arch enemy now?
But I liked that direction for Launchpad and how it made, there was this kind of, they made light of it and it was a funny part of the story, but you see him trying to get out of her way and not be around her because how awkward it is. And I think we've all been in situations like that, where you're in a situation you really don't want to be in, but then again, you don't want to make it worse. And to the point that he jumps off the pier, I think, to get away from her, and then later she gets knocked into the water, and when it cuts to her in the water, he's like, so I didn't know you were going to come down here.
Yeah, he's like everywhere he goes, he somehow runs into her.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool at the end how you find out why she's not into Launchpad, because she's not into Earth males. I thought that was really awesome that they worked that in there. Official DuckTales canon.
I'm sorry for the bad date, but you're really cool. And even if you hate me, I don't want to have to be your mortal enemy, and...
What? No, we are not enemies. I just do not wish to date an Earth male.
Oh, that's way easier.
But you would be a formidable ally on the battlefield.
Yeah!
I'm fascinated by your Earth fighting techniques.
You're so great!
Is that so that they don't ship them together anymore?
Yeah, they stopped that, which was pretty much stopped from the time that episode aired. I feel like the online discourse was like, yep, never going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think I ever saw any Penumpad shippings.
Penumpad? No, I don't think I saw that one.
That just doesn't sound right.
So what do you guys think of all those 90s music montages we had in this episode?
So the first one was really cool. I really thought that one was great. But the last one, did it sound familiar, or was that just me? It probably just sounded like anything from the 90s. I don't know. But I couldn't put my finger on what it was. At first, I thought they were doing a more upbeat, different version of the Moon theme. I thought that's what they were going to do as kind of a, showing the transition of the character. But I don't think that's what it was. It may have been in there, maybe. I don't know. Am I completely off on that? I don't know music. Have I ever told you all that?
I don't know. I don't know music either. It just
I was
sounded
sort of correlated to something from DuckTales NES, but I couldn't put my finger on a relationship there.
And I haven't seen much of the online discourse, so I don't know if that's been discussed online. It might have. And definitely by the time this episode gets out there, we might know where it was from. But it sounded familiar to me. The first one, which was, I'm trying to think, the first one was during the montage. And then the second one, I don't know, there were 2 in this episode.
The second one I think that you're talking to is when Penny was going to save the kids and that music started playing.
Yes. That was the one that I thought was very NES inspired, maybe even a play off of the Moon theme. But I'm not sure. We'll have to ask Dominic Lewis one day.
Found the part with the ship going.
Oh, we're back to the spaceship. Where was it?
No, you don't have to go back.
Where was it?
At the very end, when they go to dismantle the ship, it shows the moon again, and you can kind of see it.
Okay. Oh, when they go to dismantle the ship, yeah, because she's gonna let the moon go. She's done with it, and so we get that foreshadowing. Yeah. I tell you, I don't see this show ending with the 3rd season. I just don't. I feel like they're building up too much. I mean, I know we've got a lot of episodes left. We're on episode 8 out of 25, 3, somewhere in there ish episodes. I don't know. I just don't think. I think they've set up a lot of things. I still feel like Akita was it was big world building when they went to Tokyo. And I just felt like season 3 was getting so big, it would feel like we were just going to be left with this big world that we wouldn't be able to dive into anymore. I'd be shocked if we didn't get a season 4. And them hinting towards possibly Linares, if that's what the intention was, leaves me feeling like there's got to be more. I mean, do you guys think he shows up this season during the Fowl storyline?
That's tough. It'd be difficult because I think it's going to start getting pretty intense with that Fowl storyline, unless it just becomes like a random one-off that they're trying to kind of break the momentum up a little bit. I don't know.
Oh wow! Do you think they introduce Fowl in order to get to the Darkwing Duck stuff, and then that ends up being it for that storyline, and we break into something else for the second half?
I feel like Fowl is going to be prevalent through the rest of the whole season. That they might show their face soon. I feel like, but then they might kind of go a little undetected. They Scrooge knows that they're there, but he doesn't know what they're up to. And then at the very end, the finale, I feel like that's when their final plan is going to kind of go into effect. But I do feel like they're going to be seen in the Darkwing Duck episode, especially with that promo, and you see the vines attacking them, and then you see the vulture guy who's part of Fowl in there. So I feel like it's going to be something during that episode is going to really kind of bring them to light.
And unfortunately, I do think at some point Frank did say that Linares is not coming back, along with the poor Sharka who is up there as well. So I think the shot up to the moon showing the ship was more of like a callback, just be like, yeah, he's still orbiting the moon, but I don't know if he's going to be coming back.
It's true. I remember the conversation about the Sharka not making it. So yeah, it could be part of Penny's storyline, wrapping it up.
Yeah.
Put a pin in it. That part's over. Now she's fun-loving, enjoying the Earth, trying out. Have you guys noticed the theme with Sam and roller skates?
Yes.
She boarded the doofus scene with the roller skates, and then roller skates were back in this episode. I had something that stuck out to me.
I know we touched on it a little bit beforehand, but I do want to thank Sam King for pushing for lesbian representation in DuckTales. As a lesbian myself, seeing a character like Penumbra where she's secure in her sexuality and having her, she's a wonderful character. So having a character like that in a Disney show like this, I know it's not easy to get this sort of representation, and I know it's small. It's just a step in the right direction, but I think that's definitely one of my favorite moments in the series, just because it personally means a lot to me. And again, all the Glomgold stuff was fantastic. Those were like the two things that really stuck with me. Fantastic Glomgold moments and lesbian Penumbra.
great Glomgold moments. That character every time, and I'm really liking Penumbra. I mean, as a character, she's been amazing for the show. I love the dynamic with Della, and then that whole having a character be introduced to this Earth, and everything that's going on it's going to be a lot of fun to see where the show goes and what takes place. And I think it was another great show. Like I said, the kids, we enjoyed watching this episode this morning. I don't know if they watched it more today or not. I know last week we talked about how many times we watched last week's episode, but with this week's episode, I've been kind of busy. I'm looking forward to watching it again so that I can catch some of the stuff that I missed, and then also getting caught up with the discussion online, which is always fun. I hate when I'm behind on the discussion online. I know a Discord has been busy because I get notifications over there, over at the Res TV Discord, but we want to make sure everyone knows they can check us out at DuckTalks.com, follow us on Twitter at DuckTalks, and you can also find us individually. I'm at Infinirama616, almost at a milestone on follows, if anybody wants to throw a few my way.
And I'm at the Pirate Steven. Yeah, you should go follow Mitch.
And I'm at CCRunner524.
And Kolbi, won't you tell people where they can find you?
I'm at Pixie Sphere on Twitter and at Glomgay on Tumblr. That's where I started out. I'm sure some of you recognize me from there.
And I think that's going to do it for this week. So until next time.
Hey, Glomgold.
If you can dream it, you can do it.
DuckTalks is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Any sounds or audio clips played on this podcast are the property of their copyright holders.
Better luck next time, Dewey.
Jake!